In today's episode, we discuss the coaster that's been thrilling families at the world-famous Mall of America for over 30 years. Welcome to Airtime Traveler. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Roller Coaster History Podcast. You are listening to Airtime Traveler. My name is Nathan Grace, and this week I am joined by a special guest. My sister, Kiersey Grace, is joining the podcast today. Say hello.
Hi.
So Haley's feeling a little bit under the weather this week, so I asked my sister if she'd come in and do the podcast in Haley's spot temporarily. So, hopefully Haley's feeling better soon, but Kiersey's here for today.
The general population.
The general public.
The general public.
Yes.
I know my terms.
If this is your first time listening to Airtime Traveler, basically here every episode we take one roller coaster and we dive into individual, the history of that individual coaster. And so this is our 11th episode, so if you haven't had a chance, go and check out the other 10 episodes. We also have a secondary podcast called Coaster Conversations, where we have, we do all kinds of, other non-history coaster content over there. So we release that on the off weeks that Airtime Traveler isn't releasing, so be sure to go and check that out. So we're also on social media. You can see us on Instagram and Twitter, and be sure to leave a 5-star review here on Spotify or wherever you may be listening. And I think that's the whole spiel of all the different things to cover. So, all right. Do you have any coaster news to talk about?
I don't.
So since this is your first time on the podcast, maybe you could just talk a little bit about your experience with roller coasters and maybe your favorite one that you've been on so far.
I don't have a whole lot of experience with roller coasters. I've been to a handful of theme parks, but I've been to Disney World many times, obviously. And then I've been to Silver Dollar City and Worlds of Fun. That is another one that I've been to multiple times. But other than that, I went to Six Flags when I was like 5 years old. But
we went to Six Flags New England.
Yeah,
that was a long time ago.
But so of the handful of roller coasters that I have been on, I'm a sucker for Rock and Roller Coaster, but that might just be because I like Disney World so much. But I really love Wildfire in Silver Dollar City. And it's been a long time since I've been to Worlds of Fun, but I remember loving Patriot. That's my favorite one in Worlds of Fun. So those are some of my favorites. I haven't been to Worlds of Fun recently enough to know if I like that one more than the others, but
I would not have guessed that Wildfire was your favorite one at Silver Dollar City.
I love that. I probably like that one, the ride itself, more than Rock and Roller Coaster. But the theming, of Rock and Roller Coaster, the whole experience is more exciting in Rock and Roller Coasters because it actually has a theme, whereas Wildfire is more of just a ride. So.
Yeah. That makes sense.
But I love Wildfire. Oh, Time Traveler is another one too. I guess Time Traveler is probably above Wildfire. I forgot about that one. Time Traveler in Silver Dollar City is that one's above Wildfire, but those both are.
That's a good one. Yeah, Patriot. I want to get back on Patriot because when we rode it, because I've only been one time, and it was with you, but I think you had gone one other time before that, and. We got rained out that day, so we only got to ride Spinning Dragons and Patriot. And I remember Patriot, I just got super sick on it. But that was really before I was really a coaster enthusiast. And so I now know how to not get sick on coasters, and especially because, so I really want to try that one again and give it a fair shot. So plus there's all the other stuff at Worlds of Fun that I haven't been on. But
we need to get back there.
Yeah, well, next year they're building that new coaster, so definitely got to go back and check out that one. So it's tough because we have the pass this year, but I want to go back next year
for the
new coaster. So I'm like, are we gonna go both years, or
Well.
definitely have to go next year. So it's just, do we use our pass to go this year, and then probably won't get the pass next year because we're gonna try some other parks.
Yeah.
Besides the ones we've been doing this year. So.
Yep.
Anyway. I'm trying to think if there's any other news to talk about. There was a couple that got arrested at Cedar Point this week. So they were on the Ferris wheel and doing inappropriate activities on the Ferris wheel. Got arrested.
Oh,
so, which is good. They should be arrested.
They should. Yeah.
They were in their 30s. So I'm like, grow up. Like, you know, like, come on. He's like, I was way too old to be doing stupid stuff like that.
Oh
So
my gosh.
I don't know if they were using some substance of some kind, whether it was, you know, they were drunk or used some type of drug before they went to the park. I don't know, but yeah, they got off the ride, and they like, security was waiting for them when they got off the ride. And the lady was like, "Oh, I dropped my wallet and I was picking it up." And they're like, "Okay, yeah, you're dumb.
Right.
You're dumb." And I'm like, so we arrested them.
Of course. That's all it was.
So that was like the big news story I saw this week. Just
goodness.
like, wow, those dumb people. So.
Goodness gracious.
Yep, fun stuff. All right, well, since this is your first time, you have listened to the podcast, so you'll know some of the stuff that we'll do. But anyway, you'll just be here to represent the GP, and if you have any questions or anything that doesn't make any sense, and I'll try to explain some stuff too that Haley probably would have known because she lives with me and I talk about this stuff all the time. So hopefully you don't get too lost. So today we're talking about kind of a weird coaster. We're talking about the Pepsi Orange Streak, which is at Nickelodeon Universe at the Mall of America in Bloomington, Minnesota. And the reason we're talking about this one is because this is actually the very first roller coaster that I ever went on.
Is it really?
Uh-huh.
That's really funny.
Yeah, so we'll talk about the story and like why it has kind of an odd name, but I think I was I got it down here when I was 5. So in 2001 I was 5, and that's when I rode this, and that was my very first roller coaster.
Interesting.
So I'll talk a little bit about what I remember from that later on in the episode, but yeah, I wanted to do it because this is the last episode that releases before we go on our trip to Cedar Point. So it's kind of like, hey, why don't we talk about the first roller coaster I ever went on right before we go to considered like the roller coaster capital of the world. So anyway, that was kind of the idea behind it. So yeah, this is the beginning of my coaster enthusiast journey, but even though we'll get into it later, but I remember hating it. So so let's see. It opened in 1992, and it's never been in the Golden Ticket Awards, which is like popular. It's run by Amusement Today, which is like the #1 theme park, amusement park publication. And they give out awards every year for the coasters that they give out. Top 50 in the wood category and the steel category. Okay. This is just a family coaster, so it's never gotten an award for anything.
It's not made to get awards.
Yeah. Now, do you remember what Coaster Bot is from the episodes that we've done previously from listening? So basically, it's this thing that you can go in, anybody can do it, and you can put in every roller coaster that you've been on, and you rank them. And then at the end of every year, their algorithm spits out a ranking based on how everybody else put their ranks into the system. So in the Coaster Bot rankings, it currently ranks number 371 in the country. Ranks below coasters such as Apple Zapple at King's Dominion, Cedar Creek Mine Ride at Cedar Point, and Jaguar at Knott's Berry Farm. It ranks above coasters such as Woodstock Express at Kings Island, Fire in the Hole at Silver Dollar City, and Trailblazer at Hershey Park. At Nickelodeon Universe, it ranks 4th out of the 5 coasters there. So SpongeBob SquarePants Rock Bottom Plunge, which is a mouthful.
Nice.
That's the number one coaster there. Then Fairly Odd Coaster, Avatar Airbender, and then the last one, which is their like kiddie coaster, is called Back at the Barnyard Hayride.
Aww,
that's their
cute.
kiddie coaster. So, okay, so talk a little bit more about the ride. So, what are your thoughts on the logo of the coaster?
It's got a lot of colors going on.
I personally really don't like this logo.
It doesn't. There's no continuity or
no
cohesion going on
there's
here.
3 different fonts. There's like 6 different colors.
And the colors that they have don't have any. They don't go together
the
at all.
green. I guess the green is because of so it's at Nickelodeon Universe.
Right.
So I guess the green is meant to be because.
And then obviously orange. There's orange.
Yeah. So Streak, and I guess the streak is that blue is meant to be the Pepsi blue, I guess. But
it's just a lot going on.
It's quite the logo. So here's the entrance to the ride. Which
a little bit
it
better
looks
being
better.
A sign.
I think the Pepsi logo has the white background on it when it's on the actual building, so I think that's part of why it looks better. Like here, it doesn't have that, so I think that helps.
Yeah, it does. It helps a lot.
Yeah, and then the building is like this just bright blue with like bubbles and stuff on it. So got this big Pepsi logo on the building here. From what I can gather, it seems like you just walk in and you walk up some stairs and like the station's right there. Gotcha. So I imagine it doesn't really get that long of a line because the building seems pretty small.
Makes sense.
Let's see. The paint scheme. So this is something new that Haley and I have been doing is we just kind of review different parts of it. So the paint scheme, I don't. It's like a moss green. And then just these cream colored support structures, which when we get into the history of it will make more sense. Okay. But in its current state, it doesn't make much sense.
It doesn't match at all. If it doesn't. It adds to the already high number of colors.
Yeah, so many colors. Neither of these colors is part of the logo. So, yeah.
Not even a little bit.
Yeah, so we're already... This is a lot of colors we're dealing with already.
A little bit.
The trains... This has got to be my favorite part of this coaster. Look
Amazing.
at the trains on this thing. It's so long.
There's so many cars.
This picture is just hilarious. This looks photoshopped.
It does.
The train... It looks like 4 cars too long. Like right there looks normal, and then it just keeps going. Like if I posted this picture on Instagram, you wouldn't even be able to fit the whole train in the picture.
No, you wouldn't. It's so long.
I will say this about the trains, though. At least the trains are on theme.
Yeah, the trains match. They've got the orange, and then it looks like the green from the logo, or at least. It's green or yellow, but either way, it at least matches better than the track.
Yes, than the moss green track that it's on. So, here's the description from the park. It says this coaster streaks down a twisting, turning track, leaving nothing but screams and startled pedestrians in its wake. It's so aggressive. Like, there'd be one thing if this was like a really thrilling coaster, but this is it's like a little family coaster. So for it to say screams and startled pedestrians in its wake.
That's my favorite part.
Like I'm picturing people just on the path as the coaster goes above and just oh. Oh my goodness. It's that roller coaster that's right above my head and I totally forgot about. I do like the sensory guide that they have on there, though. That's kind of cool. I've never seen a park that has one of these. So
Glad Taste is a 1.
Yeah, that would be kind of weird. I do kind of want to go through all of the rides on their website now and see if any of them have more than 1.
For the taste.
Yeah, if there's a ride that has a taste of at least 2, I want to know why. That's because that's weird.
That's really weird. They give you something to eat before you get on. Here, have a piece of candy.
I don't know. Because even Hershey doesn't have anything that would fit that description.
The Jolly Rancher one, they could hand you a Jolly Rancher before you get in.
I guess so. And maybe if you open your mouth during the scented part, maybe you'll feel like you're tasting cherry or whatever flavor. I don't know. That is
so weird.
Everything else makes sense though.
Yeah.
So I do appreciate that. That's kind of cool. So all right. Also, this is kind of interesting. They have like a height limit that is like different if you bring an adult with you,
right? Which
I imagine is probably, me and Dad rode this when I was little, and so I imagine I probably wasn't tall enough to do it by myself.
Yeah.
But I like this description. A chaperone is defined as a person who is qualified to ride and who, in the opinion of the ride operator, is capable of controlling the actions of the unqualified rider. Required chaperone does not pay to ride, which is nice. So
that is nice.
Yeah, so like if you bring your kids to the park, because I think the park you can either pay like for a wristband that gets you on the rides all day, or you can like pay for a specific amount of rides, which is like I think it's six points to ride. So you get like 20 points, and then you just go spend them on whatever rides. So that's nice that way you can buy the points for your kid, but you don't have to buy them for yourself if you want to ride this with them because they're not tall enough. Right. So I do appreciate that. Yeah. I do like that though. In the opinion of the ride operator. Yeah. Since like the ride operators are like,
you don't look responsible enough for this.
You don't look qualified to handle this small person. So
you can't control their actions.
All right. Here's some customer reviews of the coaster. Here we go. We got 4 stars. This ride manages to pack a lot of fun into a coaster that is relatively tame compared with outdoor coasters. Obviously isn't the fastest coaster on the planet, but it more than makes up for that in pure fun, since you get to go zipping around the entire region of Nickelodeon Universe. Entire region. Region makes it seem huge. It's not that huge. It still has some great highly banked curves, though it doesn't go upside down. Worth a ride. It doesn't go upside down. I don't know that Why would you expect a ride this small to go upside down?
I don't know.
Anyway, 4 stars. Fun ride. Lap bars aren't super secure. Okay. Ride is a little jerky on the turns, but a cool window long roller coaster. I think he meant cool winding long roller coaster. Or windy? Maybe windy.
Maybe windy.
Yeah.
Window doesn't make sense.
No. The lap bars aren't super secure. 4 stars.
I feel like that person either described it incorrectly or they should have lowered their rating.
Yeah, one of those two. This ride, formerly known as the Pepsi Ripsaw, is a great first big roller coaster for people of all ages, which is, basically exactly what it was for me. So, 4 stars. Love roller coasters, but don't remember being on it unless it was at Valley Fair. This person came in and left a review. It was like, I love roller coasters, but I don't think I've rode this unless it's at Valley Fair. It's not at Valley Fair. What are you doing here? What's funny is Valley Fair is in Minnesota. It's actually like 20 minutes away from this park. So they at least are in the right region, but I have no idea why he's leaving a review for this coaster he doesn't even remember being on.
Been on it.
3 stars. Fun, but still not fast. Still not fast. What is that supposed to mean? It was
supposed to be fast at some point.
Still not fast.
Still not fast.
He's been on it like 6 times. It's like it's still not fast. I like this. I got nothing out of it. Just a giant monorail. This person, the world's most intense monorail. Seems to be a theme of people calling it like a...
The train kind of looks like a monorail.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's long enough to be a monorail.
It really is. It does. It is long enough. So, this one's really tame. I guess the seniors need a coaster to ride too. What's that supposed to... This is Nickelodeon Universe. It's for kids. Duh. Fun fact, the back is actually the fastest. That's not how physics work. Like, it's the same speed. The whole train goes the same speed. It made me think, though, like, what if it was like a slinky? Like, it just, like, the front would go and then, like, the back would go.
I think Disney needs to do that with Slinky Dog Dash now. There you go. I think we need to figure that
out. This is my favorite roller coaster because it's not too fast, like others are. Plus, I only hate the turns. Only hate the turns. The whole ride is turns. These reviews are hilarious. I don't understand this.
How do you ride roller coasters if you don't like turns?
Yeah, I mean, there's a few that
just go up.
Yeah, well, back. It go through a loop up and then back. Yeah. But that's 1 out of 1,000 coasters only go in one direction, or only go straight. And then my last one, my favorite one. Favorite ride at Nickelodeon Studios. 4 sunglasses emoji, a bicep emoji, a rolling eye emoji, a tongue sticking out emoji, a smile emoji, another sunglass emoji, a peace sign emoji, caterpillar emoji, 4 carrot emojis, and a kissing emoji. I have no idea what that means. No clue. 5 stars.
It means it's their favorite ride at Nickelodeon
I
Studios,
guess so.
obviously.
This looks like he typed out favorite ride at Nickelodeon Studios, and then his kid just got the keyboard and just beep, 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 beep. And then he hit enter and just submitted it that way.
This is fine.
So there we go. There's our customer reviews of the Pepsi Orange Streak.
Amazing.
So, all right, so let's talk about the history of the Pepsi Orange Streak. So let's go back to 1983. All right, 1983. So today our story begins at Knott's Berry Farm, of all places. So during the 60s and 70s, Knott's had struggled to maintain attendance because of Disneyland. So, Disneyland being built in the 50s, and they're only 20 minutes away from each other.
Right.
So they had really been struggling, and then they added some major coasters like Corkscrew and Montezuma's Revenge, which were bringing in teenagers and young adults, but they weren't, the families were all going to Disneyland.
Right.
And so they were really struggling. They weren't struggling, they weren't going out of business, but their attendance numbers weren't where they wanted them to be, and Disneyland was a big part of that. So after Walter Knott, the founder of Knott's Berry Farm, after he passed away in 1981, his children continued to run the park. A new CEO was hired, but his daughter Marion kind of was one of the main creative influences at the park, even though they had hired a CEO, but she remained heavily involved in the process.
Gotcha.
And so her first focus was to find a major IP to bring to the park, which IP stands for intellectual property.
Okay.
So Disney has all of their Disney characters. That's
right.
their IP.
Right.
So, but Knott's Berry Farm didn't have anything like that. They had a couple original characters, but none of them really took off. So she had the idea to bring the Peanuts characters to the park, which during the 80s, Peanuts were huge. So she met with Peanuts creator Charles Schulz, and after meeting with him, approval was given, and they signed a licensing deal with him. So in 1983, Knott's opened Camp Snoopy. And so this was they had a new kids section. They opened... what would they have? They had Balloon Race, the Grand Sierra Railroad, the High Sierra Ferris Wheel, Huff and Puff, and a kiddie coaster called Timberline Twister. And the characters were there for meet and greets, very heavily influenced by the way that Disneyland was running their park, right? So with characters, and very heavily themed. And they put it right at the front of the park, so it was easy for the families to find. So this was kind of their major addition in 1983. And then they would even end up using the Peanuts characters in their advertising. So I think I have a TV commercial, here. Hopefully this isn't too loud.
Attention moms and dads. Have your kids been doing this? Turning their backs and refusing to talk till you take them to Knott's? You may wonder why. My assistant will demonstrate. They have rides. Fast, fun, exciting rides. Shows like Snoopy's all-new Ice Spectacular. And besides, now you get to see me there live. And Snoopy and Charlie Brown too, of course. My advice, take your kids to Knott's or never see their faces again.
Okay, take your kids to Knott's or never see their faces again. That's a little aggressive, but so you get the idea, though.
It's a little. It sounds like a threat.
It does sound like a threat, but I don't know. Anyway, it was
different time.
Yeah, I guess so.
1984.
So the new addition was a huge success for the park. Brought thousands of families back to Knott's Berry Farm, especially now because they had some for the families. They had these big coasters for the teenagers and the adults.
A little bit of everything.
Yeah, a little bit of everything. So Many point to this as a major turning point in the history of the park, and some have even said that it saved them from being run under by Disneyland. Some people, it might be a little dramatic to say that it saved the park, but definitely was a big deal for them. Yeah. So the 80s continued to be a very successful time for Knott's. They add new rides in the adult section and the Camp Snoopy area throughout the 80s. Business was so good that they were even considering building a second theme park. I saw rumors that they had discussed building one in Indiana somewhere, but like the deal fell through. Couldn't find anything else other than that though, so it was just, I don't know if it was just a rumor, but however, on June 14th, 1989, ground broke for the Mall of America in Bloomington, Minnesota. The site of the mall used to be occupied by the Metropolitan Stadium where the Minnesota Twins and Vikings used to play. And after they built the Metrodome in Minneapolis, this spot basically became completely available for development. And so there was this plan for the Mall of America, like this, just absolutely massive mall that they wanted to build here. It would be the largest in the country. 96-acre mall would house over 500 stores and would be so large it had its own zip code, which is true. I didn't know that. So it's not like its own city. Before, it's not its own city. Like it's still part of Bloomington, Minnesota. But you know how like cities can have multiple zip codes based on the location. Yeah, the Mall of America has its own zip code, which is crazy.
It's crazy.
So the focal point of the mall would be a massive 7-acre indoor amusement park in the center of the mall. The park would be Knott's Camp Snoopy. So they had a big Snoopy dog there for the groundbreaking of the mall, and you can see in this picture. He's got like his little, Boy Scout outfit, or I don't know. It's not Boy Scout, but you know what I mean. Let's see. The $70 million park would be a risky proposition for Knott's, as there had only been one indoor park that had seen success. There's one at the Edmonton Mall in Canada, which is owned by the same people that built the Mall of America. Okay. So they kind of had this idea of, like, hey, an indoor amusement park can work. We've seen it before. But the way they designed the park differently was, so the Edmonton Mall, it was kind of like they built this mall and then they built an amusement park on, like, in addition to it. Mm-hmm. This one, they wanted to be like the amusement park's in the middle and everything else like is around it. It was around it, yeah. So you can see they've got 4 big stores in the corners. Sears. This really ages this, which is hilarious. But Nordstrom, Macy's, Sears, and Bloomingdale's. That was the 4 big stores of the Mall of America opening. But then, yeah, you have Knott's Camp Snoopy right in the middle. So it was a risky proposition, but Knott's officials felt confident in their ability to bring the park to life and make it a worthwhile destination. Part of why they felt it was worth their time was the park was actually owned by the Mall of America, or the people that own the park. We'll talk about them later. But Knott's Berry Farm would operate the park. So they would supply like the people and the resources to run the park, but they wouldn't have any ownership in it, which made it less risky for them. Gotcha. Despite being indoors, actually, do I have one more? Oh yeah. So here's some construction pictures of them as they were building the park. Crazy. So, and they have like this huge skylight, like the whole roof of the amusement park is completely glass so that you still get tons of daylight in there.
That's really cool.
Yeah, so very cool. Despite being indoors, the park would be heavily themed in landscape to give an outdoor atmosphere. So pathways were built with slight changes in elevation to simulate walking through outdoor terrain. They planted 400 live trees and lots of like bushes and flowers and stuff. And so you can see this is what it looked like after construction was completed. It just looks really cool. It does. Like, with how many trees, like it's just very, very picturesque, even though it's indoors.
With the right angle, you could easily convince someone that it was outside.
Oh yeah, like if you cropped it off like right there, you wouldn't even be able to tell, because you're getting natural daylight and you have trees that are real trees. Like
the paths are more organic rather than
just flat
straight
concrete. So let's see. Though the park had the rights to the Peanuts characters, clearly, there's this massive
enormous
this was a bounce house. And so you can see there's like these windows down here where you could watch your kids, I guess. I remember, I have this, like, I obviously don't remember a ton because I was 5, but I do remember this massive inflatable Snoopy there. So
it was Snoopy themed.
It was Camp Snoopy when we went, yes. So, yeah, and so they didn't use the Peanuts characters like super heavily. Like if you're looking at this picture here,
you'd have no idea.
You have no idea. There's no Peanuts theming anywhere. But so there were, it was less on the nose than the Camp Snoopy and Knott's Berry Farm was, but they did use the characters, and clearly it's named Camp Snoopy. So. Right. So the park opened with the rest of the Mall of America on August 11th, 1992. So this is, there's like this pamphlet here from when the Mall of America opened. Mm-hmm. You can see this is actually a directory for the mall, but right on the front, they're advertising, Knott's Camp Snoopy. So, like I mentioned, like that was their focal point. So they wanted to get people to come to the amusement park, and they'd walk right by all the shops and everything, and there was like a food court in the middle. So you get people to come to the amusement park, then they'll check out everything else.
Exactly.
So that was their little pamphlet there. Here's a couple newspaper clippings, which is... newspaper clippings are me and Haley's favorite part of this, because some of these are just so absolutely ridiculous. Let's see what we got here. I guess, okay, so I'll preface this by saying that one of the big things that they had talked about was whether they were going to put liquor at Camp Snoopy or not. So here's this, this article came first, actually. It says, unlike many amusement parks, it has free admission and a pay-per-ride system, okay? It's packed with restaurant options, including 4 sites that sell beer and wine, itself the cause of mild controversy. Bloomington City Council member Jim Andrews was the only member to oppose liquor licenses for Camp Snoopy. We should have a portion of the mall that is set aside for kids, he said. But Bloomington Mayor Neil Peterson said most public facilities, including the Metrodome, have liquor licenses. That kind of opposition is a 1930s mentality. Okay then. I mean, this is a kids park, and Disneyland at this point, there's places now you can get liquor at Disneyland, but especially in 1992, there was nowhere in Disneyland you could get liquor. So for him to say that that's a 1930s mentality is it's kind of interesting. Odd. Yeah, this is Camp Snoopy. Like,
it's Camp Snoopy, and here's Camp Snoopy's alcohol.
Here's the welcome to Charlie Brown's bar. Like, and they didn't do it like that. Like, right. They did end up putting liquor in there, but so this article talks about it a little bit. It says, sure enough, as you enter Knott's Camp Snoopy, you're greeted by the sight of Snoopy, Charlie Brown, Lucy, Linus, Woodstock, and all the other Peanuts characters. But you also can't help but notice the Silverstein Fest House, a beer-serving restaurant, or the Stadium Club Bar above the Peanuts Gallery Arcade. I love this. Beer? A sports bar? At a children's theme park? Good grief, Charlie Brown. Just the way that these people write their articles. Funny. Yeah, the editors, they just... Good grief, Charlie Brown. Oh, that's funny. So, they did end up putting liquor in there, and I think you can still get it today. This guy must have never been to an amusement park before. This is hilarious. Oh, he was so angry about the cost of this. Here we go. So, he talks... I want to read this whole thing, but I'm not going to because it is kind of long. But... basically, he's this is right after it opened. This is in like one of the big Minneapolis newspapers. So talking about the park, introducing it to people, talks about the 400 trees, 30,000 plants and bushes, a zillion replicas of Snoopy. Okay, sure. Obviously. And if you aren't careful, one big hole in your pocket. Get the point? You'd better. At Knott's Camp Snoopy, a point is worth 50 cents. Rather than requiring cash at each amusement, the park has computer scanners that deduct points from computer cards you purchase. So he talks about the prices. Let's see. And then he talks about some of the rides. It says, but all my daughter Sarah talked about was the top-priced Paul Bunyan ride. She also was intrigued by the Ranger Station Nature Center, for which there's no admission charge. So there's hope. Okay. When your kids are tired of horsing around on the carousel, hope they sit on one of the grassy areas and relax. More likely, they'll want to explore the Snoopy Boutique, Peppermint Patty's Candy, Good Sports, or Joe Cool's. Adults may prefer Knott's Berry Market or the Crafts Barn. Let's see. And then the last one here. Regardless of how long you stay or how much you spend at Knott's Camp Snoopy, your kids will leave exhausted. The price you pay for this convenience is up to you. Okay. So this guy, pretty
salty.
Pretty salty about the price of the rides and stuff. Oh. Anyway, I just thought that was funny. Like, he talked half of his little spiel here is about the pricing.
Well, he's talking about the price, and I don't feel like it's even that much. Like,
yeah,
he mentioned specifics for how much it is.
And,
like,
granted, this is,
still
30 years ago, but I mean,
he says it's like the equivalent of like $1 to $2.50, which would add up, but that's still...
nowadays would be what, $3 to $8, maybe $9 adjusted for inflation. Yeah, that's really not that much.
It would add up, but still.
Yeah, there's still parks you can go to like this one that it costs money per ride, and there's definitely times where it costs more than that for a ride. So anyway, that was hilarious. It was very, very angry.
That's so funny.
So here's a map of the park when it first opened. This was like in the newspaper, showing where all the rides are at, so that people kind of had an idea of what was available there when they went.
Gotcha.
And so yeah, you can say they had lots there, lots of stores, lots of rides.
Yeah.
And you could enter from any of the 4 sides of the park, which was nice. So no matter where you parked in the parking lot, like, you could just walk in and you could get into the park and
don't have to walk all the way.
Yeah,
around.
Exactly. So that was super nice.
That was really nice.
All right, so that's the map of the park. Let's see. Okay, so one of the park's headline attractions was a zero family coaster known as Pepsi Ripsaw, which here is called Ripsaw Roller Coaster. So that's the entrance right there. Okay. And you can actually see that's the whole coaster winding around the park. So let's see. A coaster was themed to an old sawmill featuring rustic minecart themed trains. So here's some pictures of it when it first opened. Well, I think this sign's a little bit later.
Yeah.
It looks kind of new.
Looks
but
older.
Yeah, so this definitely was when it opened. I think this is still a little later, but I mean, you get the idea. So. Yeah.
So that's the moss green, the same moss green, isn't it?
Yes. So this is why they never repainted it.
Yeah.
So when they designed it, they built it in this moss green because it blended in with the scenery and had more of an outdoorsy feel.
The Camp Snoopy type
exactly,
of thing.
It matched the kind of the aesthetic of the park. So.
Yeah, it works with that.
Yep, and then with these minecart trains, it just really worked. So let's see. The ride experience was as follows. Riders board a 15-car train with 2 passengers per car. After a short lift hill, the train makes a left turn and starts the first drop. The ride is mostly sweeping turns and helixes as it weaves in and around the park. After a bank drop to the right, the train follows an upward helix to the left, followed by a downward helix to the right. After a few small hills, the train enters the mountain that houses the log ride. And then it had like a brief indoor dark ride type section.
Okay.
Kind of think like Seven Dwarfs Mine Train.
Gotcha.
So then after that, it went up another lift hill, and then the train took a banked drop to the right after a few turns back and forth, above the footpaths and over a few rides. The train took one more downward helix to the left before entering the final brakes. Featured a 60-foot top height and a top speed of 30 miles per hour. So basically the same speed as like Space Mountain. So not super fast. So
pretty mild.
The ride was purposely designed to be a high-capacity family coaster, which is why it has the ridiculously long trains. Gives an excellent tour of the park as it travels from one side to the other and back. So they do have this just brief video. So I think that's the original sign.
Okay.
Because this looks, the hairstyles in that looks pretty 90s to me.
Yes, it does.
So this is what it looked like back when it was Camp Snoopy. This is a POV that someone recorded back in that time. So, and you can see, I really like how it weaves. You can see here in a second how it kind of weaves through the trees. So it gives it a very almost outdoorsy feel because of how the trees interact with the coaster. So.
Yeah.
So I'll talk a little bit about what I remember now from when I wrote it. So I don't remember like a whole lot. Like I said, I remember the giant inflatable Snoopy.
Right.
And I remember...
That would be pretty memorable.
Yeah, it's definitely very memorable. And I remember, like, you know, just how big everything seemed, you know, because as a kid, like, everything just seems huge. And,
right.
You know, it just seemed like the rides just towered above you all over the place. And then the only other thing I remember is actually being on the coaster. I remember, like, feeling like we were just so high up in the air, which in reality, it's only like 30 or 40 feet. But for, you know, little 5-year-old me, it felt like 100 feet in the air. It felt like we were so high. And I even remember, like, trying to tuck my head down, like, in between my knees to, like, I didn't want to watch. Like, that's how scared I was. I was just like, no.
I just want to get off.
And so... That's pretty much everything I remember from that, though. I don't remember the whole ride, but I have, like, this one, like, fleeting memory of, like, tucking my head down because I was scared of it, which is pretty much my experience with roller coasters until we went to Disney, basically.
Yeah.
Like, I remember, I talked about this in the Powder Keg episode, how I went on this coaster that was like a kiddie coaster at Silver Dollar City when I was probably 6, so, like, after this. And it was just a tiny coaster. It's like one of those that goes around 3 times because it's so small.
One.
And I just screamed the whole time and just like trying to pep talk myself, like only 2 more times. So this seems to match that, you know, I just tucked I imagine the lap bar probably prevented me from actually tucking my head between my knees, but that's what I remember trying to do at least. Well, yeah, when I first said that the lap bar is not very secure. So
maybe you could tuck your head.
Maybe I got all the way under the lap bar. Who knows?
You were just sitting on the floor.
So that's what I remember from it.
That's so funny.
So Knott's Camp Snoopy would end up being a huge success and a major draw for the Mall of America. Pepsi Ripsaw would stand as the headline attraction at the park for over a decade. And... obviously, it's not an extreme thrill, but it served a purpose as a family coaster, especially for a park that was designed for families, so it makes sense. So as Knott's began planning for their next edition at Knott's Berry Farm, so back in California, the success of this coaster actually led them to their next big investment, and so Knott's would choose to work with Zierer again, which is the manufacturer of this one. And in 1995, Knott's would build Jaguar, which is the same make and model as Pepsi Ripsaw, but it's a little bit bigger, a little bit faster, but it's basically the same concept. It's, you know, slow banked turns that will slowly build up speed because it goes, I think, 35 miles an hour, and gets up to 65 feet tall. But it's really a family coaster. So it has some really good theming, though. I really like the trains are really...
It's really unique.
Very cool. So, and they built like this huge Mayan temple in front of it. So like that's the entrance to the coaster right there. So looks very good. It's in their Fiesta Village section of the park, so it fits very well. Yeah. And actually, you can kind of see it right here, but this is the loop for one of the coasters called Montezuma's Revenge. And this coaster goes through the loop of the other roller coaster. So that's kind of cool.
That is cool.
Yeah. So, and this one is still at Knott's Berry Farm. You can ride this one today. Yeah, very similar. It doesn't have a dark ride portion like Pepsi Ripsaw does. That's basically that's the biggest difference between the two. So let's see. In 1997, so a few years after this, Cedar Fair purchased Knott's Berry Farm. Which we've talked about in other episodes. So, and that's why I was able to go to Knott's Berry Farm earlier this year, because it's part of the same chain as Cedar Point and Kings Island and all that. Yeah. So that happened in 1997 after Disney did not win the bid. So I don't know if you've heard that, but Disney tried to bid on Knott's Berry Farm.
I think you've told me about that.
I may have even mentioned it in a previous episode, but basically the Knott's family was worried that that Disney would take everything out and just replace everything with Disney characters.
Which is a valid concern.
It is a valid concern. So a lot of Knott's Berry Farm, the way it is today, is still the way that they left it when they sold it in 1997, which I think is what they wanted. So So, as part of this purchase, Cedar Fair also acquired the license to use the Peanuts characters. So now all of the Cedar Fair parks have Camp Snoopy and Planet Snoopy, which you've probably seen at Worlds of Fun.
Yeah.
So that's why that happened, because Knott's got it, but then when they bought Knott's in 97, they got the licensing to use
all
it.
their parks.
Yeah. And they have to keep renewing it. Like, I think their license right now goes through 2025, and then they'll have to renegotiate. But as of right now, they still have those licenses.
That's
so
good.
Let's see. So, yep, Camp Snoopy and Planet Snoopy's areas at parks across the chain. And then Cedar Fair would continue to operate the Camp Snoopy at Mall of America after the purchase.
Okay.
At some point between 97 and 2006, they dropped Knott's from the name. So when we went, I'm not sure if it was Knott's Camp Snoopy or if it was just Camp Snoopy.
Yeah.
I don't know. Basically, everybody called it just Camp Snoopy anyway. So
a little easier anyway.
Yeah. So Knott's was dropped from the name at some point. Park operated as Camp Snoopy until 2006, being owned by the Mall of America, but operated by Cedar Fair and Knott's.
Mm-hmm.
They added a new coaster in 2004. This was Timberland Twister. So it was like a spinning coaster that they opened in the spring of 2004. So they were still making investments in the park, which is nice. And then on January 9th, 2006, Mall of America management announced that talks between the Mall of America and Cedar Fair had broken down. I guess primarily because the mall, basically Cedar Fair said that the mall wasn't advertising the park enough. That they weren't really like bringing in people from all over the country. It was kind of just becoming a regional park.
Yeah, just the locals.
Yeah, so basically they were trying to renegotiate, for them to Cedar Fair to continue to operate the park and use the Peanuts licensing, and they just couldn't come to an agreement. So on January 19th, 2006, the Peanuts branding would end at the park, and the park was temporarily renamed the Park at Mall of America. Which is very generic, yeah. So that's post Camp Snoopy, pre Nickelodeon Universe. This is what it looked like. So
it looks very generic too.
Yeah, it looks very similar to how it looked with Camp Snoopy, but obviously, any references to Peanuts have been removed.
Looks like a state fair or something.
Yeah, it's like an indoor state fair, with a lot of trees. Still very outdoorsy looking, but definitely, the giant camp, like the giant Snoopy inflatable was removed. They didn't replace that with anything.
It's not really much
actually,
of a theme going on.
Yeah, I said that incorrectly. They replaced they got rid of the Snoopy character, and they finally replaced it a few months later with just a giant treehouse inflatable, which I don't...
Is it this thing?
No, that's a chair swing. I'm not sure. It might not be in these pictures. This may have been before they put the replacement in, but... Anyway, many other landmarks in the park were either replaced by generic landmarks or not replaced at all. They were allowed to sell the rest of their Peanuts merchandise, though, which was nice. That way they didn't have to just throw away all their inventory. The park dwindled somewhat without a proper IP to draw in the crowds.
Yeah.
Like you said, it's just kind of generic, so... People in the area were probably coming, but, it wasn't bringing in people.
No one was traveling to go to it.
Yeah, for sure. So, the Mall of America was anxious to find another licensing deal. So, in February of 2007, the Mall of America announced a new licensing deal with Nickelodeon. And in July, the park would be renamed to Nickelodeon Universe. So, as part of this transition, the Mall of America announced they'd be adding 2 brand new roller coasters and a lot of other attractions. And then they temporarily closed the park to redo everything, and then they were going to reopen in March of 2008. So I found this grand opening thing that they had. So Saturday, March 15th is when it was planned to open, and some of these things here are really funny. So here's the ribbon cutting ceremony, 9 a.m. Let's see, virtual slime zone from 9 to 9. I don't even know what that means.
9 a.m. to 9 p.m.
Yep.
That would have just been all day, I guess.
Nickelodeon character meet and greets. Okay, makes sense. Ashley Simpson live performance and autograph signing at noon. That's a blast from the past.
Yeah.
Some of these are really... Meet and greet with Lil JJ from Just Jordan. We didn't watch a lot of Nickelodeon, so I have no idea what
I
that
don't
is.
either.
This one, though, meet and greet with Miranda Cosgrove from iCarly at 1:30
That's
p.m.
That was a hot minute ago.
Yes, it was. 2:30 p.m. meet and greet with Nat Wolff and Alex Wolff from the Naked Brothers band. No
idea
no
who
clue.
that is.
That's Naked Brothers band.
That sounds interesting.
And then from 6 to 8 p.m. kids dance party with Jay Boogie of Team Nick. I'm guessing it's Boogie.
It looks like
Yeah.
it looks like Boogie.
So there you go. That was the grand opening for Nickelodeon Universe.
And then these characters.
Yeah, you get
so
Dora the Explorer. Got
Aang
from Avatar. You got Diego. So okay, Dora and Diego. SpongeBob, and then
Is that
what
Pablo?
was the Pablo from
Backyardigans.
Yes, Backyardigans. Oh my god. So that's the IPs they're working with for Nickelodeon Universe in 2008.
So long ago.
So, let's see. As part of the remodel, Pepsi Ripsaw received a new name and theme to fit more in line with the Nickelodeon theme. So the coaster was renamed Pepsi Orange Streak and was stripped of all outdoor and sawmill theming. And the coaster would receive sleek orange trains to replace the minecart style trains. So
they just didn't repaint it.
Yeah,
It
so
was
they
stripped
put
of
they
everything
put these
except
brand
for-
new trains on it, but they wouldn't repaint the coaster. I don't know. It must be on purpose. I don't know why, but it must be on
Or
purpose
it
for
was
them
just-
to put in.
For some reason, it was just too hard, too expensive. They just didn't want it. I have no idea.
I guess so. It's very odd because it's like they put. Do I have the number of? I don't. They spent like a lot, like 40, 50, 60, somewhere in there, $1 million to redo this whole park. So for them to repaint it doesn't seem like that difficult or that expensive in comparison. So I don't know why they wouldn't. Like, it would be more expensive to replace the trains than to paint the coaster. So maybe that's what it was. Maybe they were like, well, if we're going to spend money on it, I'd rather spend money on the trains than painting it. I don't know. It's very odd. But also, I figured out the reason Pepsi has always been a part of the name is because I guess Pepsi has a sponsorship with the Mall of America.
Oh, okay.
And so when they opened it, they said, like, we want to be the main sponsor of your headline attraction.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why Pepsi Ripsaw, I guess it was going to be Ripsaw Roller Coaster, and then they worked out, like, this sponsorship with Pepsi. So I don't think I have a picture of it here, but there's actually this big Pepsi logo on the back of the train.
Oh, okay.
So as it flies by, you'll see, like, this big old Pepsi logo on the back of it. So I guess that sponsorship is why it's still called the Pepsi Orange Streak. And
makes sense.
So anyway, I think it's dumb to have sponsorships and coaster names, but if it helps pay for the coaster and keep it open, it's better than getting rid of it altogether. So
yeah, agreed.
So Nickelodeon Universe opened on March 15th, 2008 and continues to operate to this day. The retheme has been a huge success for both the Mall of America and Nickelodeon. Let's see. The park has yet to build a large-scale attraction since then. So they like added 2 brand new roller coasters, but they haven't added any since. So I don't know if that's just because they've kind of run out of space. I mean, they are kind of, you can't really expand an indoor park. But
get rid of the stores.
But from what I hear, like, people are still going. It's still selling tickets.
That's good.
They did increase the pricing from $24.95 to $29.95 for daily tickets, which isn't too bad.
No.
Season passes increased from $99 to $250.
That's a really, really large
That's
increase.
A huge jump. Nickelodeon felt
150% increase.
That's crazy.
Oh.
That was crazy. So I've heard that it's actually lower now. Like, they brought it back down to like 150 or 175, something like that. But man, 250.
So
that's like buying season passes to like Silver Dollar City.
Yeah, it
$250. That's crazy. So
that is so expensive.
That's a lot of money.
For that time.
And well, that's 2008, so it's probably like what, $275 in maybe even $300 in today's money. So
that's so much for a handful of 5 roller coasters, or
5 total roller coasters. Well, yeah, 5 total. Four big ones and then a kiddie one.
Yeah.
So Pepsi Orange Streak continues to operate over the next 8 years. No major changes. In September of 2016, so fairly recently, the 555 group, which is they own the Mall of America and that big mall in Edmonton, Canada that I talked about. They announced that they would be opening another massive mall, or actually they purchased a mall and they planned on like expanding it, making bigger in the New Jersey area. And they added a second Nickelodeon Universe to that park. So this is Nickelodeon Universe at the American Dream Mall in New Jersey.
Okay.
So very similar theme, but obviously completely different, like the way it's designed. And,
yeah,
you know,
this one has a much more obvious Nickelodeon theme. The other one is a little bit more subtle, but this one is like...
Which makes sense because this one was built to be Nickelodeon, where the other one was like a re-theme of an old park. So, but, you know, same concept. They got the glass ceiling, so you get plenty of natural daylight in there. They built several roller coasters, so lots of trees. So very similar. The park would feature 5 roller coasters and 17 other attractions. One of the opening day roller coasters would be Nickelodeon Slime Streak. So this coaster I see it as like a spiritual successor to the Pepsi Orange Streak, especially because they have similar names.
Right.
And they kind of fulfill a similar purpose in the park's lineup. It's like a family coaster that kind of takes you around the park. It's not, it's thrilling, but it's not, super intense for kids. Like, it's for families.
This theme is what the other one needs. Like
right?
That.
I love, I'm not huge into Nickelodeon. We've always been a Disney family, but I love those trains. Those trains look awesome.
The trains are really cool. They're very Nickelodeon.
Very Nickelodeon, and the bright orange track. It screams Nickelodeon. It's perfect. So
it does.
Yeah, I would. The other one definitely needs this.
This one, I switched the orange and the green on the other one.
There you go. Paint that one like this slime green, Nickelodeon.
And then you have
green,
that orange.
And then have the orange train on it.
And then you have Nickelodeon.
Yeah, I think that would work. So
it's just the wrong color of green.
I guess so. Maybe it's just faded.
We'll go with that.
Let's see. It is a different manufacturer, so that's why it doesn't have comically long trains like the other one does. But even this one, so how many is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it seats 10 less people than the other one does. So the other one seats 30, this one seats 20. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. It looks much more normal than the other one does.
It does. Little 5-car train instead of...
Yeah. So, all right, let's see. The Pepsi Orange Streak also gets a Halloween update every year. So they put these little jack-o'-lantern faces on it, which works because it's orange. Yeah. Actually, the face is looking at this, kind of hard to tell, but that's a different face on each one too.
Oh, yeah.
So that's cute.
So funny.
So cute little thing they do for Halloween each year.
Yeah.
And then for some reason, I found all kinds of stuff about weddings in this roller coaster. So, okay, here we go. So first of all, I found this story. When was this? Oh, I don't have the date on there. Anyway, I don't have the date of when this happened, but here's the article I found. So newlyweds took their first ride of ups and downs after marrying on roller coaster in Nickelodeon Universe at Mall of America Wednesday morning in Bloomington, Minnesota, in celebration of the 15th anniversary of Chapel of Love at Mall of America. 15 couples exchanged vows and rings on the Pepsi Orange Streak roller coaster. One lucky couple won a $1,000 Mall of America shopping spree and 2 worry-free vacations, round-trip air tickets to Cancun, Mexico. So when I first saw this picture, because I found the picture first and then I found the article. When I first saw this picture, I was like, oh, okay, there was one wedding on it and the rest of their wedding party gone on it, which is still odd, but I have seen it done on other roller coasters. It's just weird, Nickelodeon, that's kind of weird, but okay, to each their own. Maybe this couple both really love SpongeBob or Avatar. I don't know, something like that. But then when I read it and I was like, this is 15 couples that decided to do this? And so I checked, and There's 15 couples, so all of them got married together, and all of them rode this roller coaster, traded their vows and rings on it, and then I guess one couple won this $1,000 prize and vacation. So anyway, super bizarre. This guy, look at this guy. He even has the orange tie and the orange corsage. Boutonniere. The orange boutonniere to match. Like, he was on theme. So I don't know. It's just,
I don't understand.
People really love Nickelodeon, I guess, and
That's
really just
so
wanted this
funny.
for their wedding. So, and then I found this article talking more about it. So I guess they've had over 10,000 weddings at the Mall of America since it opened. That's crazy. So, here's what it says. Thousands of love stories have started at Mall of America, so it comes as no surprise that it's a popular wedding destination. The Chapel of Love has hosted petite weddings, dream weddings, unique themed weddings, and vow renewals, and media-worthy wedding ceremonies have been held in the Rotunda, on the Pepsi Orange Streak, on the Ferris wheel, even in the aquarium Shark Tank.
Amazing.
So
do you know what the Chapel of Love is?
I'm assuming it's either an actual church at the Mall of America, which it's big enough they could have a church there, or maybe it's just a place for you to go, like, do like a Vegas style wedding where it's just like, I don't know, where it's like one of those where you just hop in and get married and then out back out.
Yeah,
I don't know.
that's crazy.
Chapel of Love makes me think it's just for weddings.
Yeah, that isn't just...
Yeah, but I mean, apparently 15th anniversary of the Chapel of Love, so apparently it's getting heavily utilized.
It's popular enough that it's been around for a minute.
Anyway, so I just found that very, very bizarre. I was like, of all the coasters for this to happen on, why this one? Why weird. The Pepsi? Like, where did you have your wedding? It's like, oh, we got married on the Pepsi Orange Streak. It's like, oh, like,
where is that?
Yeah, Nickelodeon Universe. And why the coaster sponsored by Pepsi? Like, oh, I don't know. I guess because it's more romantic than SpongeBob SquarePants Rock Bottom Plunge. I don't know.
I mean, at least do the Avatar roller.
Yeah, they're like, what's the Fairly Odd Coaster? I guess.
There we go.
I don't know. Those are your options, weird. I suppose. Why don't you just? I don't know.
Or just not get married on a roller coaster.
I don't know. Because the other,
so hard.
Well, the other roller coaster weddings I've seen are people that like met at the amusement park or like met because they were coaster enthusiasts, so they go to their favorite park or their home park and get married on the big roller coaster there.
Yeah.
We talked about that in our Phantom's Revenge episode, but Pepsi Orange Streak does not, I mean, this does not seem like a place coaster enthusiasts would meet at Nickelodeon Universe. But
so how do you even get married on a roller coaster?
So 15 couples exchanged vows and rings. So I imagine it was kind of like they got on the roller coaster, because if they're exchanging vows, that may have been like they got married and then sat on the coaster. Like they probably did the ceremony in the station and then they got on the coaster, exchanged vows and rings, and then after they had done that, then they took off.
I hope so. Exchanging rings while you're on a roller coaster.
I dropped it. No.
And it's just gone.
You have to all over the park. Like, yeah. I imagine this.
They did it in the station.
Yeah, that's probably it.
That's so weird.
So the last thing I've got, here, I'll explain it really quick. So, are you familiar with the Harlem Globetrotters?
I know the name.
So they're basically this team of basketball players, but they specialize in doing trick shots.
Okay.
But they go and do live shows. Like me and Dad actually went and saw the Harlem Globetrotters at the high school here when I was, probably 13 or 14.
Okay.
They came into town and you pay a ticket and you sit down, like you're going to see a concert.
Yeah.
But they'll put on like a show of like doing trick shots and different things. So it's pretty cool. So anyway, they have a YouTube channel where they'll post like trick shots, like just like a Dude Perfect or any other YouTube channel that does trick shots. So, but one of them, so this guy, his name is Julian Zeus McClurkin, and he loves roller coasters. He grew up in Ohio going to Cedar Point and Kings Island. And now he's a member of the Globetrotters. And so he got permission to go to the Mall of America and do trick shots there a couple times. But the second time they went, he did this trick shot from the Pepsi Orange Streak. So he was actually on the roller coaster when he makes this trick shot. So we can just watch this really quick. So for those of you that aren't watching, like, he's just riding in the front car of the coaster by himself, and he's got the basketball in one hand, and then just shoots the shot off the roller coaster. And there's like there's a basket that's like on the ground on one of the sidewalks down below, and they're just, you know, lots of people down there filming it and watching. So
that's crazy.
So I guess when I read more about it, they did it like early in the morning, like this, like 7 or 8 in the morning, before the park opened.
Right.
So they get there, you know, get everything set up, take all their shots and everything, and film it. And then that way they're out of there before people actually come to the park in the morning. So, but anyway, yeah, that was just a fun little tidbit that I found of them doing a trick shot off of the roller coaster. So I wanted to find like how many attempts that took, because if you think about it, like if he misses, he has to go all the way back around before he can try again. And the ride is 2.5 minutes long. So, you know, you miss 6 times, that's like 15 minutes of riding the roller coaster just around and around and around. So, yeah. But he is professional, so he probably, I imagine he hit it pretty early on.
Pretty quick.
So. But
he's riding that roller coaster like over and over and over.
Yeah. There's definitely worse coasters you could be doing that at this, because this one doesn't go upside down.
You're not going to get sick or anything. No. You might just get a little bored.
Yeah, that's true. So. I actually found out the Globetrotters also did a trick shot from a roller coaster at Silver Dollar City, but I'm going to leave that till we talk about that roller coaster on the podcast. So you'll have to tune in to see which roller coaster was. It wasn't Powder Keg. If it was Powder Keg, I would say that, but since we already talked about Powder Keg in the previous episode, it's one of the other ones there, so we'll talk about that later.
Interesting.
So that is the history of the Pepsi Orange Streak at Nickelodeon Universe, and though it's not super thrilling or super popular, it did, you know, kind of start up this, you know, indoor theme park craze in, you know, at least in the United States, and now there's this one and the one over in New Jersey, and also influenced the roller coaster that went to Knott's Berry Farm later. So not a super, like, you know, some of the coasters we talk about like have like a huge impact on the industry and affect a lot of parks. This one doesn't really do that because it's just a small family coaster, but it is interesting, and
it does have a really interesting background.
And the world's most intense monorail, as a lot of people call it. So, do you have any questions or final thoughts?
I don't think so. It just needs to be painted lime green.
Just needs a new paint job.
It's really...
Yeah. There you go. Nickelodeon Universe. You need to just paint the moss green. Like a lime green.
You can leave the white.
Even the supports would be fine. Just give me, the lime green. The lime green was it? Slime green. Is that what they call it? Slime green? Who knows?
We'll go with that. Painted slime green.
Well, thank you everybody for tuning into this episode of Airtime Traveler. If this is your first time listening, be sure to go and check out all of our other episodes. We've talked about coasters from Silver Dollar City to King's Dominion to Hershey Park. We've been all over the place talking about different coasters, and we've got some trip reports coming your way soon. We just had Haley and I went to Hershey Park, and then I had the opportunity to go to Kennywood and Carowinds recently. So lots of trip reports coming your way, and Haley and I will be heading to Cedar Point very, very soon. So we're very excited for that. We'll be talking about a Cedar Point coaster in the near future. Be sure to go and follow us on social media. It's just at Airtime Traveler. We're on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And I think that's all I've got for this week. Any final thoughts?
I don't think so, but thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining the podcast, and we will see you in the next episode.